Hello guys, so the idea for today I've been having for a while is that I want to start using stuff that I have in my room. So I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to material, and I kind of keep everything as to not throw it away because, you know, I might need it for later. I'm a hoarder, but I also like to buy new materials and new sort of canvases to use for art. When, to be honest, I have so much stuff in the house, I could probably just use that instead. So the idea is, with these maybe next coming videos that I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna do an upcycling series, which is what I kind of used to do anyway, like during COVID, but now I think I'm gonna do it even more so to get rid, to create space in my house, but also to force me to be creative in how I'm using the material and not necessarily buy material for an idea, because that's what I used to do and I had a lot of fun and it was a lot more freeing. Instead of thinking about what I was going to be doing with it, planning it very meticulously, that's sort of how I've become, when before I was a lot more like experimental with what I was doing. So this is a bit of a practice for me to get back into making stuff. The idea that I'm having for this painting that I want to do is, I've done a sketch on my iPad like a really long time ago, but I really enjoyed the idea and I just haven't found on what material I wanted to paint it on, which I think today is the day that ends. I'm just going to paint it because I really like the idea. Let me get my iPad and show you what it looks like. So it's something along the lines of this. I like the composition, I like the idea. Obviously I'm going to make it a bit more colourful, include maybe more patterns on it, make the background a bit more interesting, but that's what I'm going for. Let me just go get the material that I'm thinking of using. This MDF, this might work really well. So I have this MDF that I must have had like as a cutoff, but it's a really good shape. It's an awkward shape. We're just going to start off this piece as we usually do with a sketch. And with this sketch, I actually found it really easy to do it. It was very smooth sailing, apart from the first circle that you can see there where I kind of messed up the position. But otherwise, it was really smooth. To be fair, unlike other pieces, I don't have really deep background to this piece, which is kind of new for me because I usually do make pieces with a lot of meaning behind them. Because of that, I don't make a lot of art because I keep focusing on making really significant pieces. So this was actually really refreshing for me to just kind of draw something that I thought was pretty and paint it because I thought it was pretty. The other aspect to this £0 challenge was the fun part of just utilizing what I have and not thinking and planning about crazy materials and other stuff. This just derived from a picture that I saw that I really liked. I did kind of like a study on it and then I added my own patterns and textures to it, which actually is not what ended up happening with the final piece. I didn't end up keeping a lot of the patterns that I drew on it. I just thought that once I added the paint, the patterns would just be way too overwhelming with all the colors. I've also been on a very, not cartoony, but kind of like with my skateboard series, I did have a very sort of cell shading aesthetic where I made sure all the different shades were clearly separated. There wasn't a lot of blending. With this piece, I wanted to take up a more traditional route of not necessarily full realism, just kind of somewhat realism, because I haven't painted like that in a long time and I kind of get scared that I lose these skills when I don't use them. But I do go through phases of wanting and not wanting to use stuff, and for a very long time I was not interested in using that style anymore, that sort of semi-realistic, realistic, because I had overused it to the point where I just really didn't enjoy it and I couldn't even get myself to paint that way. I will probably save the really intricate facial patterns for another piece because I think in this piece it is too small to kind of appreciate the patterns for what they are. With gouache and with oil paint in particular, I feel there is a need to underpaint, and I'm so happy that I underpainted with this piece because I really could understand the levels, and it is something that I've definitely underestimated throughout school and just throughout painting in general. Always thankful to that one art teacher I had in school. She taught me basically everything I know about painting, and she took me off of my manga aesthetic into more painterly aesthetics, which there's nothing wrong with either. It's just I have found a very specific way of painting and what I want to portray in painting more classically in the way she taught me, rather than just doing cartoon style. So I will forever be grateful to her. In general with this piece, I really didn't have that dread. I mentioned it in my previous video, but I'm always afraid that I'm going to ruin the sketch or it's just not going to turn out the way I've planned it to. It really prevents me from creating a lot of the time, which really sucks because I used to draw every single day and I would make a piece every single day. When I started doing art for school, I kind of lost that motivation to improve and just draw and paint for myself, and it has never really returned apart from like that COVID period where I just had like an outburst of creativity and one of the best feelings I've ever had in a really, really long time with my art. I haven't gone back to that sort of love of making something every single day, and I think a lot of people who take art like in an exam setting or school setting experience that. But with this piece, I really wanted to just, again, be free, take the time and enjoy it. I wanted to return back to the sort of blended aesthetic, and I'm so proud with how it came out because I'm usually really bad at picking up skin tones. I make them very orange or very pink. I can never pick up the subtlety of a skin tone, and again the blending. I haven't blended skin tones that well in a very long time. And unlike other pieces where you've seen me do digital renders to figure out the color scheme, I took a very old school approach where I painted and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna pick this color, and if it doesn't work, I'll just change it later, but for now I like it. And although my art is very Ukrainian centric, I did draw this with the intent of making it Ukrainian based, and I was looking at references of different headscarf types. Although I would say we probably don't wear headscarves that long, but when I saw the shape of my MDF, I just kind of wanted to extend the fabric and just lean into the fabric and paint it really nicely. But otherwise, I'm just leaving it ambiguous this time. Like, I'm not making it Ukrainian centric. I'm thinking a really cool series would be if you guys followed real time in my sketching or in my painting, just to kind of get my thought process and, well, the process of painting or drawing. So just let me know down in the comments below if that would be something you'd be interested in seeing, because I would just love to kind of post a bit more of a raw art process on here. And in my last video, I talked about how my table is always a mess. Well, now here's the new addition of all my easels or like table boards are also a mess. I've been trying recently to be quite productive in art, and I've noticed that I only really get productive in the afternoon. Like the morning, I have to just get outside and do something, otherwise I will not leave the house. And during the midday, I'm doing like online work, and then it's the time for me to be artistic and creative. So just a reminder, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Leave a comment, leave a like, share it with your friends and family. I would be really, really grateful. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. My Instagram will also pop up on the screen, and it's also in the bio below. And I will leave you to enjoy the last few seconds of me finishing this piece, and then we will look at the final product.